What's up, Lemonheads? Welcome to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. I'm Crystal without Emily. And this week we are going to talk about the importance of tracking and testing your marketing. We get a little spicy here because I am not a big fan of a gut feeling. I love to have like an actual true number, an actual true ROI. Something that I can really say, I spent X, this generated X, which I kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth a little bit because y'all know my heart is all in the branding, which is a little harder to measure an actual ROI. Call me Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde there, but it is, I am who I am. So I wish I was brave enough to kind of sing the Kenny Rogers song around know when to hold them and know when to fold them for you. But that's what tracking can really do. So let's sip some lemonade. All right. So I have a guest with me in the virtual lemonade stand, Dan Dowdy, and I met him. Um, Dan, I'm gonna go toe to toe here with you. This was at New Flat Rate.
Oh, was it?
Were you at New Flat
No, I
Rate?
wasn't there. So it must have been another Dan Dowdy that you met at New Flat Rate.
Maybe
No.
not. Okay. He says,
It was
when
Service
you
World.
travel to all these shows,
Yeah.
yeah, when you travel to all of the shows, you get a little culture, like where was I, who was I with, so both great shows. But Service World, we talked a little bit about hunting, we got to meet each
Mhm.
other. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're going to bring to the conversation today?
Awesome, Crystal. Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I guess, a guy in the trades who's a little redneck and enjoys hunting, that's probably just a dime a dozen. Out-
Sounds like my next door neighbor, so yes.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I own a company called Built for the Trades. We believe that leadership development is the best way to grow a business, and so we focus mainly on that. But my past is 20 plus years in the plumbing trade. I'm a second generation master plumber here in Texas, and a lot of my experience comes from 22 years of growing my own home service business here in Texas, and so the ups and downs that come with that. My story started back in 2001 as a very, I guess I call myself a good technician. I was a great apprentice. I was working hard and doing everything, turned out to be a great technician. And um, about 2010 was pulled out of a truck and started managing the family business full time. And I was just a student of leadership. But the problem was early on in my leadership, I was a very selfish leader, all about me and my results and the company growth. And I quickly learned that wasn't the best way to grow a team, especially a team bought into your leadership. And so I became a student of leadership experts like John Maxwell. I'm certified in his coaching and training speaking program, and just became passionate about doing what I did with my company, which is developing leaders around me, growing a fast scaling, profitable home service business in the plumbing trade, and taking that out and doing that with other contractors around the nation. And so I started Built for the Trades about 3 years ago, and started doing that nationwide with plumbing, HVAC, and electrical companies. And that's really who we are. We're all about serving over selling and really just doing things with integrity in the trades. And so a lot of what y'all talk about here on the podcast really relates to what we talk about here at Built for the Trades.
Which is culture and how culture leads to results. It doesn't feel like it, but a lot of times when your culture's right, your team understands how to perform, um, and how to do those things. So, what we're going to talk a little bit about today in is through your coaching experience and through and real life trade experience, and our our marketing experience. We're going to kind of take a unique look at tracking and expecting performance, right? So, when we test things, it's like a scientific experiment, right? All everything needs to be controlled. My chemistry teacher, Mr. Wilbanks, would be so proud of me right now. Everything needs to be controlled so that you have only one variable is changing. So I know you deal with these same issues with
Mhm.
things because when you have a controlled thing, like I know I want to offer an $89 tune up,
Mhm.
right? And then I know that my team can flip that lead into either joining my maintenance club or upselling to a major repair or replacement would be an ultimate goal. I know those things, but normally something is not predictable,
Mhm.
right? And so that's why tracking is so important so that you can get down to the nitty-gritty of what that means. So, can you tell me like what are some of the contractors that you've worked with or even in your own experience like how some people are approaching testing and trackability and how that's perceived from your
Okay,
end?
I'd be happy to do that. And before I do, I wanted to just let the audience know, like, I came from the era of, I was the guy that got my family out of the phone book and online and found it when all that was going on years ago. So I go way back in the marketing world to when, online marketing companies were just starting up, and it was, who do you trust, who do you not trust, and so I have a lot of experience in the marketing world and dealing with my clients as well. It's obviously a big part of coaching people and working with clients in the trade. So when it comes to really testing, the first thing I talk about with business owners and managers is the importance of consistency. They are like a shotgun approach to marketing. It's just like, oh, I'm going to try this. And then 2 weeks later, I got on a phone call with them. Well, that didn't work. So now I'm going to try this to now. And then I'm going to try this, that, and the other. Or, hey, this is going really well. So I'm just going to turn it off for a while or something like that. And literally, if I could bottle up what I do for a living, I teach business owners to be consistent. So I help them build a vision where they want to go the next 3 years. And then we consistently, or we take a reverse approach, right, to reaching that vision, but we have to do it in a very systematic, consistent way, and that is usually like totally foreign to most people, and most
Yeah,
in the trades. They're just
absolutely.
firefighters.
I mean, I live that same
Yeah,
life. Yeah. I have that same life. So, basically what I do, is that same concept just all around your brand and your marketing, and so I have a hashtag that says, "Be still." Like, it is not a rat race, like, every shiny some of y'all would be already snatched up on a hook because the first time a flashy lure went by, you're jumping on it. There's no thought. There's no like, well, so and so in this other group told me that I should be doing this. So let me stop doing what's been actually working and try this. And it's like a caged squirrel. You're just all over the place. Consistency is by far one of the biggest places that contractors fail, not only in their well, either way, in both marketing and operations. You start out with high expectations and holding everybody accountable and then you start falling off. You start out and you don't give marketing pieces time to actually mature and come to fruition. And you're just so jerky. I don't know if that's a word, but if you're just so jerky, yeah, that that nothing can really come to fruition for you. So I love consistency. I think that's great. So you're tracking it again, that's not a constant. You're changing up your longevity and your how long you're letting something work. So I love that
yeah,
one.
and besides consistency, I think we tend to make things more difficult than it should be, and when it comes to doing things consistently, the more difficult we make it, the less likely we are to actually do it repeatedly, right? Because it just becomes too complicated. And literally, I can share an idea with the business owner, and in 30 minutes, they just make it way too complicated. It sounds totally awesome, but I'm like, hold on, this is way too difficult. So, yes, testing is important, and giving things time to mature are important. But what's most important is knowing like who your avatar is, who you're talking to, and then really diversifying your marketing. And what I'm going to share some of my marketing expertise. I know you're the expert in marketing, but I'm going to share some thoughts that I share with my clients. But I call it the three buckets of marketing. It's the sales bucket, it's the retention bucket, and it's the community bucket. And what most clients realize, especially companies that are growing up to about $1 or $2 million in annual sales, in the trades, is that they spend all their time in that sales bucket, and they literally do nothing with the customer after they sell the customer. So they're throwing money at marketing, they're getting the phone to ring, they're booking the call, they're running the call, and then that's it. And they do that time and time again. And so once we start really breaking down what does it look like to diversify your marketing efforts in all three buckets, they realize that, wow, there's a lot in the retention bucket that I'm not doing, like email marketing or social media branding and things like that. And there's a lot in the community bucket I'm not doing. there's always community events and ways that you can brand your company in your local community. And so, yeah, so
I could be your hype girl because I could just amen everything, like, "Amen, amen." Like, I could give you some walkout music, I don't know what all you need, but that's like preaching gospel, my little Baptist self, but, you know, you hit, like, so many things, so I wanna back up to number 2 was difficulty, making it everything difficult. Man, contractors stay in their head so badly. For example, when I first got started, my brother's company had just taken on plumbing, and so I was like, "Well, we're gonna do a drain clearing special." Well, I had half of my contractors were like, Awesome, that sounds great." The other half were like, "Oh god, I mean, Crystal, like, what if it's in the main line?" And I'm like, "Oh, so you would sell like a whole pipe replacement? Is that not the goal?" But they just panicked, like, "Well, what if it's in a drain that's hard to reach?" Like, then we put exclusions apply. Like, we're the boss. Like, I mean, we are the boss. So drain clearing, but they would overcomplicate it to the point that when they even pitched it to their team, they were so shaky. There's that jerky word again with presenting it to their team that not only were they not bought in, but for sure their team wasn't bought in. So it just ruined it. Like they ruined it. And I think that when we create those approaches, a lot of times we're just trying to get in the door. And so like this is not this is not rocket science. This is something that appeals to the masses, if you will, and allows us in the door. And when you overthink it and complicate it for the four outliers that might call you and ask you to do something major, we just can't live our life that way. We can't always live with the what ifs. And so love the difficulty. Don't even like number 3, like, what is your avatar, your ideal target market? If you're talking to everybody, you're talking to no one. Like, I can do a whole podcast on that. Um, if you don't know the majority of you, I can just tell you right now, you need to be talking to women, whether you like it or not. So, let me just step on your toes. If you're on ESPN radio and TV, um, odds are you need to take a look at it. You should be over here with HGTV and Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and leaning off on like digital TV and getting a little bit more away. So I'm not saying that women don't watch ESPN and things like that. Don't hate on me. ESPN's a fantastic channel. If I owned an outdoor hunting gear company, I'd be all up on some ESPN TV. I'm just saying, while there are women watching it, and they should and could, and women can do anything, girl power. I'm just saying, as a collective whole, we need to really know where is our audience and our money best spent and stuff. So, because your next one or diversifying your content, or your marketing dollars. When we're talking about your ideal target market, we can get fine tuned. Like you can ask some of my clients that I have gone through this. Like at the end of it, we're talking about their dog's name and where they shop and what they drive and how they dress their kids and all of these things. But it helps. If you will define that first, then as you build out your marketing and how you're going to track things and you're building out offers that really appeal to that target market, it will make your life much easier. But again, so many people want to drop all the way to the bottom of this very small funnel. Um, I know this hurts our feelings, but people could give zero cares, do give zero cares about heating and air conditioning and plumbing and electrical, really, until there is a problem. So we're not a fun like boutique or a cool new video game store and things like that where people are interested in our content all the time. We have to stay so diligent and consistent, back to your point number 1, on our marketing. So, I love your 3 buckets down there. And you and I both know sales is that one bucket. And so tell me a little bit like your approach on how are you um coaching your contractors when it comes to the sales side versus cold calls, like just marketed leads versus internal leads. How can you track those different things? Like, what are your thoughts on those two things?
Well, that is a great question, Crystal. And I'm taking notes here, and I have like 10 other things I want to share with you too. So we're going to unpack all this because there's so many things that are popping up in my
Yeah, we're
mind.
we're
But
fine.
the first thing I want to say is like, if you're listening to this and some of this is foreign to you and you haven't really dove into the marketing terminology, the first thing is you got to find a marketing company that you trust, because really being successful in business period is about relationships. And so, getting with a marketing company you trust and really building that relationship is really important as you move forward in your marketing. And but when it comes to the sales side of things and coaching my clients, I have a client just recently I was working with who we were on a coaching call and he was sharing, man, Dan, I don't know, this marketing company I'm with, been with them about a year. They were great when we started, but this month's been really slow and I don't know what's going on. And, I call them and I'm thinking about spending some more money in marketing, or maybe I need to go to a new marketing company. All these things we're thinking, right, as a business owner. And I said, have you thought about going back and reclassifying or listening to some of your calls and seeing if your CSRs are classifying your calls wrong? And he said, "Nah, I trust my CSRs. I trust all my CSRs are classifying their own calls. We're booking like 82%, right?" I'm like, you may want to go back and listen to some of those calls, because if you're classifying your own calls, you're probably going to lean a little more on the side of, oh, that wasn't a good lead, right? Even though it was a great lead. So what he realized was he had a lot of work to do in his customer service department. They were really only booking about 60%. And so for people listening out there, when it comes to the sales side of things, obviously we had to have good leads and be able to book the leads that come in. But really, marketing is all about meeting your marketing company halfway and making sure that you're training your team to handle the easy customers and the difficult customers and get those calls booked. That's really important. It's not a one sided street. You can't just give somebody money and say make my phone ring and think it's going to be perfect, right? So I hope I answered your question on that part. But
No, 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 that's great, and, like Lemon Seed, we don't do digital marketing, okay? So, another thing that I think when I say we don't do it, we are not a digital agency. We are literally the liaison between contractors and their digital partners, because we're about expanding your brand and your offers and connecting all the dots, everything from your direct mail to your digital to your community, which leads right into those same funnels that you were talking about earlier. Client retention is important. New customer acquisition is important. Community involvement and giving back, team involvement and engagement, your company culture, all of those things are what we try to help you build. And it's because we see the need for someone to help contractors feel organized with that. And trusting your vendor partners, man, is so tricky. And honestly, and if you're a big listener to my show, you've heard me say this before. um, I think digital agencies get the worst rap. I think they have the hardest, like, it's like a little short man trying to play defense on a guard, or on a post down low, in a basketball game. I just think, like, you're trying hard, but what happens is we as contractors are not doing a good job tracking true and actual results. And so you're like, my digital's not working. I invest all this money in PPC and it's not working. And I'm literally like, sir, it is 76 degrees outside today, and it has been for 2 weeks. PPC is not your game right now. Like, it's just not, it's not where the search volume is. Or they'll say that, and I'll go look, and I'm like, "Well, it generated 56 leads and you only closed 10 of them. So what happened there?" And so it's just a matter of, I am a firm believer that the majority of your relationships with your vendor partners can be fixed or mediated with good communication and actual results. I just, and maybe I'm just overly positive, which, I mean, I can be. I try to be positive a lot more than I'm negative. Um, I have a hard time believing that there are agencies out there, digital agencies specifically, and mail companies and things like that, that are just malicious, so, taking people's money. I think you have to evaluate each company for what they bring to the table and invest in who you have the best, like, hit it off the bat with. And then communicate, communicate, communicate to get your results, but understanding expectations as well, setting those expectations clear and upfront. And so those are just some things that I think will impact your tracking. Um, 'Cause just like you said, like, this guy was ready to go you know, uh, fire up against his digital company, when really there was just a little internal issue that needed to be
yeah, yeah. So like
adjusted.
the consistency part is just consistent. Like you said, like I tell my clients as well, like you should be communicating with that marketing company at least, every other week on a scheduled call, going through and just checking on everything because Google's always changing things, right? There's always things that are changing. And if you just leave it on cruise control and only call when you need it, then you're already behind the time to make an adjustment.
Yes.
So, and then the other thing I think about is like it's like anything else in life. I was having this conversation with my mastermind group today. It's like you only get out of what you put into it. You only get out of it what you put into it. You have to show up and you have to put the work in order to get anything out of this. And that's really good wisdom for anything in life, right? So you talk about your marketing, like you're going to get out of your marketing what you put into it. And if you're listening, you're like, right, like, damn, man, I pay this guy all this money. They should be making my phone ring. But the reality is um, they can only do what they can do with. They can only do so much with what you give them. Like, okay, I hire a marketing company and
Mhm.
I start paying them money, but then I never get on a meeting with them because I'm always too busy, or I don't provide the pictures or the content because I'm too busy. I
I
don't
don't
listen, things
listen.
like that. You're
Yep.
not going to get out of it, and that's just coming from experience, a lot of experience in the world of marketing. And going back to the testing piece, it's like one word that I can't stand is people saying, "Hey, I'm going to try this." I want to try this. And what I think about when somebody says, "I'm going to try this," it means I'm thinking about doing it. I may dabble in it, but I'm not really going to do it. And so I'm not
I'm
invested.
not
So I either say
invested.
there's no try. It's either you do it or you don't. Like either you put some time into it or let's
You
just forget about it. And people quickly realize how many times they use the word try. And it goes back to that drain cleaning deal. Like, hey, this is a part of our vision. We're going to implement this for this quarter. We're going to test it and see how it goes. And I'm 100% bought in. So if I'm 100% bought in, my team's going to be bought in. But that's leadership. Leadership is influence. From the top down, if you're not bought into what it is you're doing and you're unsure of it, people can feel that energy no matter how much you try to fake it. And so
Oh,
you just got to realize
yeah.
that, yeah, marketing is an engine. It needs to be diversified. It needs to be intentional in what you're doing, and it needs to be consistently ran. Otherwise, you can't just turn it on, turn it off. It's very inefficient when you do that.
Well, and you need to invest. You need to invest, like, this sounds so girly, but, like, with your whole self. And so invest in it, like, you don't necessarily have to this is gonna sound weird when I say it, but I know you can't be always 100% sold on it, right? Because it's new. To a lot of people, it's new. Like today, one of my clients said it's fantastic. She spent 6%. We budgeted 7% in marketing last year. She ended up going $1 million over goal. Which actually took her down to only a 4% marketing spend. So this year, of course, she's like, man, look what I did with that 4%. But she's like, no, I'm not going to take my foot off the pedal right now because what I did last year worked and I want more of it. So let's keep pushing forward. And being egregious and being intentional and being daring, and tracking is the only way that you can sit back. And I encourage people to look at their tracking, always monthly, but quarterly to me gives you a better overall read of performance because of weather patterns and operational deficiencies and things like that. But you know when you look at it, it just gives you a more actual, know what's happening and know what's working so that you can turn around and communicate that with the direct mail vendor that you're using. Like, oh, I see that I spent, $10,000 dropping these postcards, but it generated $150,000, or it generated $6,000. Like, but we got a bunch of leads, and it makes you go, oh, so we got the leads and we got in the house, but we didn't flip these very well. Or I need to change the parameters of who's getting this. Like, the houses aren't old enough. The systems aren't old enough. I need to dial in my target market. But instead, people are like, oh, this
Yeah,
didn't work. Turn it
it's
off. And you're just like,
it's
oh,
it's
you know,
crazy like that too, and just and consistency of leadership in general. So you know, you can tell. I mean, I don't want to be. You can tell a business owner definitely by the size of the company they run, right? What I encourage business owners as they grow their business is to not be a service manager for their business. Now they have to be at certain sizes, right? When they don't have a service manager, but service managers tend to track numbers by the hour, by the day, all the time. Now, right now, if I'm a business
Minute.
owner and I'm an emotional person, I'm already high strung, I'm ready to rock, and all I do is spend time in my CRM tracking my numbers, you're going to be an emotional roller coaster, right? Great day, bad day, good day, bad day. It's the same thing in your marketing. So, like if you have a marketing report in your CRM and you're tracking it every minute of every day and you're looking at it all the time, yes, you're going to be an emotional wreck. You're going to make irrational decisions. So when it comes to testing your marketing, like I'm a big proponent of a weekly scorecard in your company. I say this is the way you're looking forward, right? You're looking forward to make changes.
I tell everybody, if the first time you realize that January was a bad month is February 1st,
Exactly.
then that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. We're never going to win any races not knowing what place we're in. So I think that we have to really be intentional about
Hmm.
that marketing scorecard and just measuring what you can. So
Okay.
that leads me to like that third
Hmm.
bucket, though. Well, the
Hmm.
second bucket that you have is retention. So same thing there. Like you're right. You make the most money from new customers because they're the ones with the biggest problems. But don't sleep on your existing
Hmm.
database that's there. And you can just cultivate that to really perform well and utilizing texting campaigns and email campaigns. Like, gosh, we're well past the days of being in a dead phone book, which, by the way, side note, phone books still perform very well
There you
for
go.
like
Yeah.
us little country bumpkins down here. But um I mean, I still spend like $5,000 to put an ad in a phone book, and people are like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, $300,000 is why." I don't know why people still use the phone book in my market, other than they're old. I don't know. I have people on my team that probably don't even know how to
Uh,
use a phone book. But the whole point is, do you know how I know that it works? I have a
there you go.
freaking tracking number in it. And so it ties the revenue. But that retention
Hmm.
side was a really interesting point there too. Like, do you know what my most hated tracking nomenclature is?
Oh, really?
Existing customer. So, well, it drives me crazy. So if you're on a
Yeah.
CRM like Field Edge or Service Titan and you go to the marketing scorecard, I guarantee you that anybody that has ever driven by these companies, they claim as an existing customer. So what do you coach on? How what or and if you don't have an opinion on this, but where how long do you think someone is considered an existing customer?
That's a good question. Yeah, in the digital age we live in, it's hard to keep an existing customer. It really is because
So
they can type in your
amen. So
name and then your competitor pops up and they click it and they call and they book a call with your competitor, not even realizing it. So really, I yeah, two
I
years,
say
yeah, that's about right.
I mean, if you haven't been to their home or consulted with them in some form or fashion in 2 years, they they're
Mhm.
not that's not your people, right? Like, that's not they now, especially as my favorite thing is when they'll say, "Well, they called in off of a Google local service ad." And I'm like, "Yeah, so that's not good news for you, friend. Like, that's not good. That means that when they searched on Google, they said, 'Show me all the air conditioning companies around me. Show me all the plumbers around me.' We want people searching my name. Like, yes, I use Google to give me phone numbers all the time, so I want them to go type in my name. When you're trying to make a reservation at the nicest steakhouse in town, you know what steakhouse house it is that you want to eat there. You search the name of them for their particular phone number. You're not looking for options of where else to
Mhm.
eat. You know where you want to eat. So we need clients to feel that same way about us. And so
It is.
retention is tricky. I use this joke for people that were raised
Yep.
in the trades. Like you said, that was you, right? Like you don't know, like that's your whole life. You're a
Oh,
hashtag
there you
trade baby. That's what I call us. You think people care a lot more about your brand than they actually do. Right? Like, we think people love us more than they do. It's just a natural thing. So, um, but we wanna make sure that we are known for our name and we're getting our name and our brand out there, and that's why it's so important on this retention side. You might have gone out there when you were 19 and put 2 pounds of refrigerant in, during the hot heat of the summer, and they may call back 6 years later because that's
Mhm.
how small that leak was and need you to replace their system. Yes, lucky for you, you probably retained that customer, but odds are if you had never reached out to them even once a year with a Christmas card, they were kind of
Mhm.
free agenting out there, right? Like they were probably looking around like, who was that guy that came out? And maybe you got lucky. So In-house customers drive me crazy because we wanna take credit for something that we did 10 years ago, and we've never reached
Oh,
out to 'em, so
oh,
retention, and it's easy to track.
retention? Is it easy to track here? Or yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I think
I wanted
retention's
to
easy to
hop in
track.
here and say, one of the most underrated and inexpensive forms of retention marketing is stickers. Stickers on appliances, stickers in the home. Just think about it. That's literally a free phone call coming your way because the water heater broke down or the furnace or whatever, and they're going to it and they see your company and it transcends homeowners. So, it's being passed on to the next homeowner. They're going to call you because you already have trust because you're the last one to touch that unit. And
Yes, and, especially if you're in a transient market
mhm,
where a lot of people move in and out, so nobody moves where I live. So, it's more like they upgrade houses or something, but, stickering is very
it is,
underrated.
yeah.
That's so true, very underrated. Stickering the water heater, stickering the even putting, like, waterproof
Hmm.
tags on your shutoff valves, outside, putting a tag under your sink at your garbage disposal. All of these cool things are ways to just like assume, oh, I know my husband's like, you better call somebody because he don't need to be tinkering with anything. Like that's not his jam. So, but on that, like, put a tracking number on those stickers so that you can look back and say, look how many
Yeah,
people called off
exactly.
of our stickers. Put a tracking number on those water shut off valve tags that you have out there. Open when people open their filters, you can print um, little small stickers for their filters, and you can put them on there when your guys go out there. Like, there's so much opportunity there with a tracking number to go. That really worked well for us. And my
Mhm.
favorite one that you mentioned is community. You can ask anyone. Like, I'm a huge like community mascot girl. I love the humanization of the brand piece, and I think that contractors miss
Yeah,
that boat
community
every
is really
single day.
important. And where I would point to really deciding, I mean, some people may already have somewhere in their heart that they want to give back to and stuff in their community or be a part of. But your core values really kind of tell who you are as a culture, who you are as a person. And so if you're not involved with your community right now, I would say, hey, go back and look at your core values. And if you don't have core values, everybody has core values. You just really need to write them down and establish them. But there's probably, once you look at your core values and then think about your community, you will find opportunities out there. You'll start to think about nonprofits or events that you should
That
be
align.
giving to. And really, it should be very strategic in what you're doing. Spontaneous isn't bad in that part of marketing, but it's not as good as being consistent and strategic in what it is that you're doing. Right? It could be anything. It could be anything from in my plumbing company every Friday evening we would go and play basketball with like the underprivileged youth, and it was myself and maybe 10 technicians and a few CSRs, and we'd take pizza out there and drinks, and that's what we would do in the summertime. And that did really it was really just time and a little bit of effort. There wasn't a ton of branding to it, but a lot of people in the community, it was just a good give back event. But it goes so it does a few things. It gives back to the
Yeah,
community. A lot of influential people know about it, but also it really helps your culture because giving is such a great thing for your culture. And if that's part of your core values, then people will come to your company because of it and they'll stay because of it. Because it is a great thing to do. So it's communities more than just sponsoring the baseball team or putting a trailer in the parade or whatever. That's all part of it too. But you can also look for opportunities to bag groceries for a nonprofit or to do Meals on Wheels or something like that. It's really
well, I have this, statement here with all of my companies that I set up their community marketers, their brand ambassadors when I help companies set those up. Um, it is I have one rule, and, like, I will never just put a logo on something. So if I'm gonna sponsor something and I'm gonna invest my dollars in it, we're gonna participate. So if I'm wanting to sponsor the little league team, like, I wanna give them a little kickoff pizza party and Gatorade, and I'm gonna have Sailor Mac, our mascot, there, and we're going to take pictures and we're going to have confetti and streamers and we're going to be like, good luck, guys, go fight, win. And it leaves a lasting, like your team, like our team fights over participating in those things. Even at Lemon Seed, like I incorporated that into our own culture. Like Emily and I decided like if we're coaching contractors to give back, we need to be giving back too. So even though my team is remote, we were serving at our local food pantries. We're giving back to our local libraries and to boys and girls clubs and project graduation style things. And it's always an interesting vibe that you get from, especially if you have team members that aren't used to giving back, like they don't really know how to get involved and how to do it. It changes their whole perspective. And those things can't be tracked with true and actionable ROI. But what does work is your organic search should see lift, your employee retention should see lift, and just word on the street, right? Your credibility, a little
it's
buzz should be
great social
generated
media
from those
content, by the
things.
way. I think it goes back to like I say, hey, you should just
Oh,
post once a
amen.
day, and people just make it. It's so they overcomplicate it. You should shoot a video. Now I need a whole studio, and I need this, that, and the other. I need scripts and all these things. Like no, just turn the camera on and shoot some real stuff for people. I mean that a photo of you giving back to the community will go so much further than paying a marketing company to post 100 posts for you in a year because people want to connect with you and really on
Yes.
the social media platform you should be talking to the next hire, not necessarily to the next customer because
Correct, and, people are like, "Chris." So Lemon Seed offers, like,
Mhm.
organic social media packages where we come up with all the creative content,
No, that's
and we
good.
just need contractors to do it. So we'll say, "Hey, let's tell jokes about." Let's tell I'm just gonna make something up, like your mama jokes for Mother's Day, right? So go around and ask all of your technicians to, like, print them off. Here's a list, a Google link, say these your mama jokes, and it will get so much, attraction. Or, hey, go around and ask everyone what's their favorite memory with their mom. Shoot it on your video, bring it back. So we do all the creative, and then people come back and say, sometimes, like, unwoke contractors will say to me,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's just not generating any ROI." I'm like, "Well, no, those your mama jokes didn't
Hmm.
make somebody call and get their house repiped." You're right, sir. That's correct. But it's so when you start looking at marketing as a layered approach, then you start really understanding the vision of how to make marketing work for you. And so I appreciate those comments because they're so true, and there's so much value to paying a
Hmm.
photographer to
That's
come and
true.
take pictures of your team. There's so much value in focusing on reviews. I mean, I could just like go on and on and on. And we've actually covered so many things on this call. Like this was a great
Hey.
marketing, like kick you in the pants. Hey, you still got time. Like 2023 is just now rolling. So some of you need to adjust and just commit and go all in
Hmm.
on those things. So to kind of wrap up our conversation on tracking, number one, know what you're tracking,
Hmm.
be consistent and allow things to work, and then hold your team accountable. Make sure that you're actually
Hmm.
putting good information into your
Yeah.
CRM, and be patient, and let things work. So at the end of the day, we can't really be afraid to test and fail. We need to just go in, invest in the tactic, invest in the opportunity, and let it run its course, and
You
let it
should.
mature and come to fruition. We got to be proactive, which I preach this a lot.
Hmm.
And I'll be honest, like, we're not always great at it either. I tend to be better at being reactionary, but really true peace with your marketing
Hmm.
spend comes from feeling proactive. We can get bogged down into everything has to produce
That's
revenue
it.
and produce revenue right now. And I'm telling you, I can't hardly name maybe one or two things that literally immediately would generate revenue. And one of those is like outbound calling and texting. Outside of that, you can't launch a direct mail campaign and sit by the phone because it's going to take a little bit for that to work. And by the time you're sucking wind on leads, your options are very limited. And so just be a little bit more forward thinking, try to see past the right now to where you're constantly working on a longer sighted goal, and really getting that thing. So, or really getting
Yeah.
that in your head. so that you're not beating yourself up. I loved your analogy about the service manager. You're living with these. Now we've taught everybody, put these screens up in your office so you can see by the minute
Mhm.
performance. And I'm like, that sounds like I need a
Yeah.
bottle of whiskey and acids. Because all that's happening to me is I feel like I
Oh,
need to be drunk and taken off of this heartburn, because you're watching in real life or in real time. And I get it. And I understand the purpose of it. But I don't think that we can see the forest for the trees when you're looking at it so
yeah, no.
minusculely is. So fine line there. So, well, Dan, tell us a little bit. If someone wanted to talk to you more about what you do as a coach and things like that, how do people reach out to
Yeah,
you? How
I'd
can
love to
they how
share
can
that.
they talk
Before I
to
do,
you?
I just wanted to say the reason why I was laughing as you were talking about all that is because I've literally done all that. So
Yeah.
I'm here talking as an expert, but realize I have 20 plus years of doing all those things, and that's why I've learned to give back and share that information in the trade. So if you're doing that currently, don't beat yourself up. Just realize, hey, this is part of the journey, and it means you
Yeah.
care. Hey, at least you're tracking something, right? But yeah,
Well, get some people on your team. Like, a- as contractors and as business owners, you need a support system. Good leaders build better teams. And so identify where you need the help and put those people on your team. If you're the marketing genius, you may not need a marketing department, but you're probably terrible at the numbers. Trust me, marketers know how to spend the money. Um, or that's not always true, but it always helps my case when I'm pushing to spend more money. But and not all of us, honestly, are great leaders as far as being disciplinarians and the accountability partners. And so put that leader on your team. And so we all have different leadership styles. We all have different management um, people on our team. There's just so much opportunity here, and the trades right now, the home service industry, we just have so many great coaches and things going on right now that you shouldn't wallow in regret there. Like, just
I
stand
know.
up, like
Yeah. I
dust
mean,
yourself
I'm a
off and
coach who
let's
has a
go.
coach. So go figure, right? Everybody needs that extra accountability in their business. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it's funny because people say, well, Dan, what do you do? I own Built for the Trades. Okay. Well, what is that? Like, I have no idea what it is. Well, it's a community of like-minded trades, business owners and managers, and really anybody in the trades who's work, living with integrity, doing quality work, and just really putting their best foot forward to serve their clients. And, we say we help businesses grow through leadership development. Once again, they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what business coaching is. But the reality is we walk alongside business owners to help them develop a vision and help them get to that vision. And we have processes in place that help them achieve their vision quicker than they would on their own. And really, the ultimate result is they have a self-operating business because they know where they're going and they have leaders around them who are competent, trained, and who are taking initiative to achieve that vision. And so we do that through coaching. We do that through some consulting, or we have mastermind groups that meet on a weekly basis, and we have in-person training events and stuff. So there's a lot of big coaching and best practice companies out there, and we're just a small niche company who really loves leadership, and that's really what we focus on. So our ideal client is somebody who's grown their business to a certain
Awesome.
point and they're feeling a little stuck and they want to develop a leadership team. And I just say, hey, reach out. We have free resources on our website at builtforthetrades.com. All kinds of great information for people. And then we also have the Built for the Trades podcast where we're doing just like this. We're really focused around leadership talk. And so I just encourage people to check us out, join the community. We'd love to have you. But Crystal, thank you again for having me on the show. This has been a lot of fun. It's flown by. And
Yes, it has. I tell you, I like to talk 30 minutes, and I'm like, "No, I don't know why I say that anymore because it always was it." This was just a fantastic conversation, about all things, and I have just so much enjoyed it, and I just wanna encourage contractors kinda like you, like, there are companies like Built for the Trades out there that are meant to be those support systems that you've been looking for. I encourage you
mhm,
to reach out. There's no harm, no foul in, hey, tell me what you cost and tell me how it works and all of those things. But stop fighting your battles alone. Like,
that's it.
we are all like, this is a close knit group. So jump in. Like, Everybody's ready. Also, so Lemon Seed Marketing or Full Service Marketing Company. Thank you for listening to our podcast. We are here to help contractors really develop their brand identity, organize a marketing plan, a community engagement plan, a culture plan, and where you place your money, and then we do it for you. And so we would love to visit. All of our consultations are free, and we would love to visit and see how we can help you grow your business. So, thank you for listening to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would love for you to consider writing us a review. Follow us on all of our social media channels from the Yellow Chair. Thank you for sipping lemonade with me and
There you
virtually,
go.
I guess, with Dan, even though we're still in Texas. So, both got win there. And so, I guess we'll see y'all next time.